The video I want to make today is about the lowly spray gun. I have a video already on YouTube that's comparing a spray gun with a regular airbrush, and that video is getting like a lot of views for my a channel my size. But there's a lot of questions about like specific workings of a spray gun, because in that video I just really compare this to an airbrush and like the differences, but I don't really explain how it is. And it never really struck me that this is kind of a beginner friendly tool, and so beginners need all the explanations because that's so they're beginner, that's the deal. So if you were watching that video and you click the link to this one, welcome, we're gonna delve into it. And if you instead you watch this and you want to see what's the deal with this versus an airbrush, I'll put that video as well linked up so you can see both of these. And let's talk about the spray gun, because I've been using it a lot this week because it's one of my favorite tools, and it gets a lot of hate on the internet because some of it justified, to be honest, some of it justified, because it's a very simple, like I call it an airbrush alternative. And I think that's where you have to draw the line. It's a spray gun. It is not an airbrush. And whenever you kind of like start to call this an airbrush, I think that's where you get like criticized, and that's where the debate begins, because it's not an airbrush. And if you go, oh well, you just need this, you don't need an airbrush. Well, not really. But this is great at like a lot of things, especially bulk. Like right now I'm painting Imperial Knights. I'm painting like 1 million of them. Like, I don't know if you guys can see. Yeah, oh yeah. You see all this? This is all brown. So there's no, I guess this all spray gun brown, because there's no value in this. The only goal of this is to get it brown as fast as humanly possible, because there's no art. I don't feel like an artist when I'm slamming down brown on 74 guns or whatever. And that's really where the spray gun is best, because it's simple. It shoots paint. So terrain, and then base coats, and then primer. These are all the things that this thing is unmatched for. Like, this is better than any airbrush for this specifically. But it cannot do anything else, really. There's no even basic highlighting unless you're doing something very large. You're not going to do it properly with this. This is not a tool that allows you to do so. So it has its limit, but for the stuff that you want, it's perfect, because you get like big reservoir, like big cups, and it's super easy to clean and handle. So like you save a lot of time. Also, these things are like very large, so you do these guns, these are kind of big guns, and it's like 4 sprays, like one on each side, and then I turn it around and I do one on each side, and then we're done. But again, not an actual airbrush, so you can't really, it's not like a apples to apples comparison. This is its own little thing. It's very simple, but it does a lot of good stuff. So if you want to, like, I know a lot of people, they want to do their army, they paint everything by brush, and then they buy a tank, or they buy one large like monster for their army, and they're like, I'm not painting that by hand. Spray gun is a good alternative. So I got 2 models here, and they're pretty cool because they combine like a lot of feature that one has that the other does not have. So that was kind of the little introduction to this, but now let's talk about like what everything here is. Right, so we'll use this one first. This is the one that I've been using recently. So this is change my mind. See, I got to keep you guys on your toes. Let's use this one. So because this one is like practically, I think I've used it, but it's still like in the packaging. So when you buy it, you get this. They all pretty much come with exactly this. There rarely is anything else. The only exception is this one. This one I got with like a compressor and a bunch of cheap airbrush in a package deal. But it's still the same. Like, you can see the things are mostly the same. So what you get in there, you get your spray gun, of course. This one here is Badger. And then you get 1 cup and a little straw in there. Usually you get adapters, at least one. This one has one. Yeah, this one only has one. Sometimes you get two. We'll cover that. You get one super cheap nylon hose, and you get a little fancy adapter like this, and we'll talk about this guy later, because this has a very specific purpose. So now, the cool feature that this one has that I really like is that the cup is built into the airbrush. So this thing here, this guy, there's no lid on this one. So this is kind of a bummer if that's your only one, because you have to clean it and you have to put it on there because there's no lid. But you can buy a box of this, and then you get like a million of these little... Oh, this one is like paint in it. You get a million of these little containers like so. And usually these are the same size, right? There we go. So you see? So now we'd be good to go. So you basically, with this one, you would have one lid off, but then, you know, I have 12 colors I can pre-mix. The good one's here, so I was using it. So that I have this one. This one is one I rarely ever not mix. It's Scrog Brown. It's one of my favorite colors. It's always like in there because I use it a lot. And it's also like so pre-mixed just because it's great for everything. But you can mix a bunch of colors and use them. Do the same with your primer and keep them in the pot. So as soon as you're ready to go, you just pop the lid, slam it on there, and then you're good to go. So that's one of the cool feature. The other one, the cup is not built in, so you get this, you know, this little spray gun. But instead of having this big old thing, it's the same thing. But it's a lid, and the lid kind of slides into this here. So you see now we have practically the same, you know, is practically the same thing. You know, another couple of differences, like the way the ending is, but overall pretty much the same thing. So some have this. I like this one only because it fits with my little spare pots that I can build a bunch of. This one slightly more practical because when it comes to cleaning, I just remove this. I use my second one that's filled with cleaner or water, bing bong, and then we're ready to go. Then again, you can just fill one of these guys out with water and you're good to go. So it's not that big a deal because you just clip it. That's kind of the deal with this one. So sometimes you get like a different lid, and most of the time, I don't know why the Badger one only comes with one cup, but usually you get two. The Badger, I think, is the only one I've seen that comes with only one of these glass cups. Usually you get two, which is practical. So if you buy a Badger that only comes with one, just buy yourself the extra. I think this is like 10 or 12. Like, it's not expensive at all to buy. I'll put links to all of this down below so you can see. And then same thing, this used to be super cheap. I've looked at it recently, and maybe it's just Canada, but the Badger one specifically looks like it's got like a big price bump. So I'll do a little bit of poking around, try to find good links. But this is such a simple tool that like the Badger and this one is like it just say Airbrush. It doesn't even have a brand. It just says Airbrush on it. This is like this is a cheap one. Like so they do the same thing. You don't really need a fancy name or anything. It's just too simple of a machine. So the adapter on spray guns is always the small one. So you're never really gonna get the good ones. So that's why they always come with these O's, is because they have the two small ones. Now compressors never have this output of air, so that's why you need this one. Which fits a lot of compressors. So you just have to screw on your adapter to your like small hose, and now suddenly I'll get it to work. There we go. Nope. So yeah, I never use these because this is really good for air cans. We'll talk about this later, but the hose is really like I'll say problematic part, which is you have to figure it out a little bit. So either you get this, and then this plugs right into your... Where's the other end? Whatever. This plugs right into this. Or you have to buy the adapter set, and then this gives you an adapter, which is this little piece here. So you see this one here. Same ending as that one. But with the adapter, now I get to use it with my normal... my normal airbrush hose. So that's really where it's at. And this is also like a super cheap thing. It's like $10, the best thing. If you've watched any video about the airbrush, I'm talking about this adapter set. Like 7 pieces, it makes everything you need, so you get one. Um, you get one. It's the best thing. Anyway, so this allows you to use it with your compressor, like any hose basically. Because this one I've only seen Badger hoses that have the small ending, so you would not require some sort of like weird custom fitting. Now, about the air hose themselves, the air cans. So I tried to find one. I locally I've not found any because it's not a really popular thing. Ever, it's not good at all. It's convenient, as in if it's like you don't want to buy a compressor, it works. It's there. It's essentially the same thing as you used to like dust your PC, except there's no ending on it. So you have to screw in this little guy right here, a little piece that they give you like this. So you screw this into the can, and then the air will come out. You get to control it with this. So if you tighten this a lot, no air will come out, and then if you unscrew it, it lets a lot of the air out, and so you get more pressure out of your can. I've used them in the past a little bit. Like when I first got started, it was kind of available around. I think like through the hardware store was the best deal. And the reality is like it's really bad. You get 20 to 25 minutes of spray time before the pressure in the can drops too much and it becomes unusable. So you need to have 2 or 3 cans and then you just like swap around. So it's not really practical. And that's really the only use for this thing here. This screws into the can, and then your hose comes out here, and you get to adjust your little pressure out of this. So I used to do the 3-can system. It worked for a little while, but then as soon as I got like decent money, I upgraded to a real compressor, and then I never touched an air can again. They're really, I would say, a last resort option. They're not good. They're just not good. Okay, there's not much to do. Maybe if you do like something like cakes or nails, that's like really short. But for miniature painting, it never works. But it's there, it exists, and that's how you use it. I've got a lot of questions about this piece, specifically on the other video. That's why I'm talking about it. And then again, same thing with this hose here. I would not use this on a compressor. These are really cheap and they tend to burst if there's too much pressure. You won't have this problem with a can, but with a compressor, you might. So that again, that's where, depending on your setup, you use it if that's what you have. I used one before when that's all I had. But as soon as like your sub grows, like hoses are super cheap. Compressor is relatively cheap compared to a lot of other things, and they last you a long time. So this is really, if it's really only all you got, it's gonna work, but it's not good. It's just not good. Now, and then the next thing is, how does this little machine compressor, how this little airbrush work? So the reason that they're so simple is that they are single action. So single action is the trigger, and single action means yes or no. So I can press it down, and that's all it does. So if I don't touch it, nothing happens. If I press it, it will release air and it will spray. So right now, there's nothing going on, but if I press, you're gonna hear it. So you see, as soon as I press, the air comes out. So that's really fun. That's what we want. And that's really all that it does. Whereas like on the real deal, you have the double action, so you can press, but you can also pull. And the pulling controls the size of the spray. In these spray guns, to control the size of the spray, there's a different mechanism, and it works roughly the same. If you look at it inside here, the camera will focus. There we go. You can see there's still kind of a needle, and as I turn this little end piece, trying not to shake, you're going to see the needle kind of retract and the hole getting bigger and bigger. There we go. Boop, boop, boop. So the more I unscrew this, the wider my spray gets, because there's more space, right? Because you have to think my paint is coming out from this ending right here. So the more I unscrew this, the bigger my spray is going to be. And then the more I tighten it up, and you see now it's pretty much closed by this little needle. It's closed. The Badger is the same thing, same but different sort of situation, where you can see, instead of being the front part it's still the front part, but it's this piece here controlled with a little spring, and you won't get a needle on this one. But if I tighten it, it's gonna spray small, and if I loosen it, it's gonna spray bigger. So basically, the spring just acts as a it controls the height, so you get more air because it works. As far as I understand, I'm not a rocket surgeon. As far as I understand, it works with suction. The only other feature that you kind of need to, I'll say, worry about is on the. Does it have on here? So on this one, it doesn't have it. On the other ones, the one that are clip on, is this little screw right here. It's on the inside. Is you have to make sure that this is tightly screwed. If it's like loose, air is gonna come out, and then it won't work again because it works with the fact that this is like airtight. This is a big feature of these things. This is a big part of how they work is that this situation is airtight. It's also why having these big cups doesn't matter, is because there's no like air contact really, like the airbrush on the cup, so the paint doesn't really dry in there. You can store it in there for long. So when it's like super tight like this, like it doesn't screw on anymore, normally nothing will come out. Even though this is just water, plain old water, nothing comes out. But as I unscrew it, and then you can get like even a much bigger spray. So the reason that this is like so mundane and so kind of a, I won't say ridicule, but why people usually trash talk is because it's stupidly simple. It does nothing else than what I just showed you. You set up like a width that you're comfortable with, right? Like I want this size, or I want, I don't know, this size. I want this size, or I want this size, and then you just spray. It's all it does. So it's kind of stupid. And then for people that are like into other art fields where mostly illustration, this is not really good, because in illustration you do want to change the size as you spray. With something like a spray gun, you can't really do that. Like how stupid it would be, like I'm spraying and then I have to like turn the thing as I go. Like it makes no sense whatsoever to do that. So for a lot of things, this not really good. But because in miniature painting we don't really use like a lot of different spray sizes, this can get you like far enough. So again, it's limited. But if all you're looking for is just to get started and speed up a couple of things, there's no value in like painting your tank with a brush for 5 hours. If you can do it in like 3 minutes with this, like it's gonna be blue at the end of the day. So that's where this thing really shines. Same thing with terrain. Trying to base coat a tank with like a Sotar 2020, that's like a super fine airbrush. Why would you? It's if you're base coating it blue, red, yellow, whatever, all you need is something that gets you a good coat. Now, in terms of cleaning, this is also really, really stupidly simple, because there's really nothing going on. Like the paint does not really go anywhere into the reservoir, because it's down there, and it gets like sucked in through the straw and the air pressure basically, and it shoots out. So you have a lot less troubleshooting, where with the airbrush sometimes it's like too thick or whatever. Here, if it's too thick, it won't go through. So you rarely have like chunks in this section, which is the hard part to clean on an airbrush. With the spray gun, you rarely have this. So what I do is exactly what you're seeing now. I just have a cup that's always filled with water, because I never really need anything stronger with it. For like, again, I've used this a lot last week, this past week, and water is always fine. You could load it up with thinner, glass, whatever. I think water is fine. And then I just switch it. So like, let's say I was painting with this thing or whatever. When I'm ready to like, okay, I'm done, I just switch it. I put this lid on the water, plug the water in, start shooting, and then we're good, because eventually, the straw and everything, this here, it will stop being filled with paint. It's gonna fill up with water. So you dump it, you take it to the kitchen sink, and then you're good to go. So in terms of cleaning, this again is another stupidly simple thing where you get a lot of bang for your buck, because it's easy, right? So you never, like, this is the uncomplicated version. You don't really require any talent. You don't need
to spend hours like trying to master it. It just does the thing. And as far as I know, all the primers, they work almost all out of the bottle straight up, and most of the paint so far, everything I've tried through the spray gun, like the airbrush made product, they work straight out the bottle, which is not always the case for an airbrush. And then same thing, the primer that destroys all airbrushes. This thing is foolproof. It's like, I'm not gonna say indestructible because I'll get a lawsuit, but this thing is pretty tough. And I've had this one. This one I've had it for at least 4 years, and I use it. Every other month at least. I come across a project that I think about. This is a job for the spray gun. Move aside airbrush. So, and I've used this one a lot. This one, I think I only used it for a video. Honestly, no real reason why I used this one more than the other one. I think this kind of covers it. Again, if you have like questions, as you can see, I answer most, if not all, questions, and I even go as far as make a new video, especially to address like frequently asked questions about stuff in videos. So do not, don't hesitate to reach out. I think this covers it. Again, this is a great tool for simple stuff. What it does like no one else's business. But if you get into a conversation, somebody says, "Oh yeah, this is exactly like an airbrush," they're wrong. It's not. It's not, and nor should it be. Right? That's not the goal of this. Is not to replace your airbrush. This is to do something better, something different, and better at it. But not the stuff that the airbrush can do. Right. And the video I want the sound like an angsty teenager right there.